Sharks are among the ocean's most feared predators, known for their powerful jaws and razor-sharp teeth. They can sense even the smallest movements in the water, making them efficient hunters. However, sharks are not the only dangers lurking beneath the waves. From venomous sea snakes to aggressive crocodiles, the ocean is home to numerous deadly creatures. Join us as we dive into 6 harrowing stories of close encounters with these formidable underwater predators and other lethal threats. On a warm summer day, June 12, 2001, off the coast of South Africa, a small, quiet beach named Shimmering Cove was bustling with tourists. The beach, known for its clear waters and golden sands, was a popular spot for families looking for a peaceful escape. The waters of Shimmering Cove were teeming with life. Dolphins often leaped from the waves, and colorful fish swam close to the shore. However, lurking in the deeper waters were the great white sharks, apex predators known for their size and power. Tom Anderson, a seasoned sailor, decided to take his daughter Emily on a boating trip. Tom was an adventurous man, always seeking excitement. Emily, at 16, shared her father's love for the sea but was more cautious. She had grown up listening to her father's stories of the ocean and its creatures. The day started early. Tom and Emily loaded their small boat with supplies, sunscreen, and a picnic basket filled with sandwiches and fruit. They set sail as the sun began to rise, casting a golden glow over the water. The boat cut through the waves effortlessly, and they soon found themselves far from the shore. They dropped anchor in a calm spot, and Tom pointed out the various marine life that swam around the boat. Emily marveled at the sight of a pod of dolphins in the distance. The morning passed peacefully. They enjoyed their lunch, and Tom shared more stories of his sailing adventures. Emily listened intently, occasionally glancing at the water to see if she could spot any more dolphins or fish. Sharks were a common sight in these waters, but they usually stayed away from boats and humans. Great white sharks were especially prevalent in this region. They were powerful hunters, capable of sensing blood in the water from miles away. These predators played a crucial role in the marine ecosystem, maintaining the balance by preying on seals and other marine animals. Despite their fearsome reputation, shark attacks on humans were rare. Most sharks did not see humans as prey. As the afternoon wore on, Tom had an idea. In a moment of poor judgment, he decided to play a prank on Emily. It was meant to be a harmless joke, a way to inject a bit of excitement into their day. Tom waited for the right moment and then, with a mischievous grin, pushed Emily into the water. The water was cold, and shock ran through Emily's body as she surfaced, gasping for air. The look of confusion and fear on her face made Tom laugh, but his laughter died quickly when he saw the telltale fins breaking the surface around her. Great white sharks had sensed the commotion. They began to circle Emily, their sleek, powerful bodies gliding through the water with ease. Tom's heart pounded in his chest. Panic set in. He leaned over the side of the boat, reaching out to Emily and asking her to go back to the boat. But Emily was frozen in terror. The first shark made its move, darting towards Emily with incredible speed. Its jaws snapped shut inches from her leg. Tom grabbed a paddle and swung it wildly at the shark, trying to fend it off. The shark swam away, but others took its place, their eyes cold and calculating. Tom's hands trembled as he struggled to pull Emily back to the boat. The sharks grew bolder, brushing against her legs and nipping at her feet. Blood began to tint the water, and the shark's movements became more frenzied. Tom knew he had to act fast. He leaned further over the edge, stretching his arms as far as they would go. His fingers brushed against Emily's, and with a surge of adrenaline, he grabbed her wrist and pulled with all his strength. Emily's screams echoed across the water as the sharks closed in. One of them lunged, sinking its teeth into her leg. She kicked wildly, her eyes wide with pain and terror. Tom fought to keep his grip on her, his muscles straining with the effort. Finally, with one last, desperate pull, Tom managed to haul Emily over the side of the boat. She collapsed on the deck, sobbing and clutching her bleeding leg. The sharks circled the boat, their eyes fixed on their escaping prey. Tom didn't waste a second. He started the engine and sped towards the shore, the boat bouncing over the waves. Emily's cries of pain filled the air, but Tom couldn't afford to stop. He had to get her to safety. They reached the shore, and Tom carried Emily to the nearest lifeguard station. Paramedics arrived quickly and began treating her injuries. Tom watched helplessly as they worked, his mind racing with guilt and fear. Emily's leg was severely injured, but she was alive. The paramedics stabilized her and rushed her to the hospital. In the aftermath of the attack, Tom was consumed with guilt. He replayed the events over and over in his mind, haunted by the sight of the shark circling his daughter. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had failed her. Emily underwent multiple surgeries to repair the damage to her leg. The physical wounds would heal, but the emotional scars would take much longer. Tom struggled to come to terms with what had happened. He sought counseling and spent countless hours researching shark behavior, trying to understand what had gone wrong. He learned that sharks were attracted to the vibrations and sounds of splashing in the water, which could mimic the movements of their natural prey. Emily faced a long road to recovery. She attended physical therapy sessions and slowly regained the strength in her leg. The memory of the attack lingered, but she was determined not to let it define her. She returned to the water, this time with a new respect for the ocean and its inhabitants. The day that began as a fun outing had turned into a nightmare. Tom's prank had gone horribly wrong, but in the end, it brought father and daughter closer together. In the early summer of 2003, the waters off the coast of British Columbia, Canada, were calm and serene. Nestled in these remote waters was a small fishing village called Havens Point. The village, home to a close-knit community of fishermen, was picturesque. The dense forests stretched to meet the rocky shores, where the Pacific Ocean lapped gently. The waters were rich with life, from schools of fish to playful seals and the occasional sighting of orcas or killer whales. Orcas were a familiar sight in these parts. Known for their intelligence and hunting skills, orcas often traveled in pods, working together to capture their prey. They were majestic creatures, yet also formidable predators. Fishermen in Havens Point respected them, understanding their place in the ecosystem. Over the past few months, however, a sense of unease had settled over the village. Fishermen had started to disappear. 17 men, seasoned and careful, had vanished without a trace. Boats were found adrift, empty and silent. Dr. Sarah Collins, a marine biologist, was called in to investigate. Sarah, known for her work with marine mammals, was intrigued and concerned. She arrived at Havens Point on June 14, 2003, a day marked by bright sunshine and calm seas. The villagers greeted her with a mix of hope and apprehension, eager for answers. Sarah spent her first day on the water with Captain Jack Thompson, a veteran fisherman. Jack was in his 60s, with weathered skin and a deep knowledge of the sea. They set out at dawn, the boat slicing through the still waters. Sarah watched the coastline recede, her mind focused on the mystery that lay ahead. The morning passed in relative quiet. Sarah and Jack talked about the orcas, their behaviors, and the recent disappearances. Orcas, Jack explained, were intelligent hunters. They used complex strategies to catch their prey, often working together in coordinated attacks. But the idea that an orca could be targeting humans was almost unthinkable. As they ventured further into the open ocean, Sarah took notes and made observations. She watched the water intently, hoping for a glimpse of the elusive creatures. The sun climbed higher and the heat became oppressive. Just as Sarah was about to suggest heading back, Jack pointed to a disturbance in the water ahead. They approached cautiously. The water churned and frothed, and for a moment Sarah thought they might be witnessing a hunting pod. But what she saw next chilled her to the bone. Floating in the water was a partially submerged fishing boat. Its sides were gouged and scarred, evidence of a violent encounter. Sarah and Jack pulled closer, their hearts pounding. The boat was empty, but the damage was clear. Deep, jagged marks covered the hull as if something had rammed it repeatedly. Sarah's mind raced. She knew that orcas were powerful, but this kind of aggression was unusual. They returned to Havens Point with the damaged boat in tow, the weight of the discovery pressing down on them. Back at the village, Sarah examined the boat more closely. The marks were unmistakable. They matched the size and shape of an orca's teeth. Sarah shared her findings with the villagers. Fear spread through the community. The orcas were not just hunting fish, they were attacking the fishermen themselves. Sarah knew she had to find a way to stop this before more lives were lost. Sarah spent the next few days on the water, observing the orcas from a distance. She studied their movements, trying to understand what had caused this change in behavior. Orcas were known to be affected by changes in their environment. Overfishing had depleted their primary food sources, forcing them to adapt. But targeting humans was a new and terrifying development. On June 18, 2003, Sarah set out alone, determined to get closer to the orcas. She navigated her boat to a known feeding ground, a place where the orcas often hunted seals. She anchored a safe distance away and waited. Hours passed, and just as she was about to give up, she saw them. A pod of orcas surfaced, their sleek bodies gliding through the water with ease. Sarah watched through her binoculars, noting their behavior. They moved with purpose, circling a small cluster of rocks where seals often basked. Suddenly, one of the orcas broke away from the group. It headed straight for Sarah's boat. Her heart raced as the orca drew closer. It was massive, easily over 20 feet long, with a distinct notch in its dorsal fin. The orca circled the boat, its movements deliberate. Sarah could see the intelligence in its eyes, a cold calculation that sent a shiver down her spine. The orca bumped the boat, testing its strength. Sarah held her breath, praying the boat would hold. The orca then rammed the side with incredible force. The impact nearly knocked Sarah off her feet. She clung to the railing, her mind racing with fear and determination. The orca attacked again, this time with more ferocity. Its teeth scraped the hull, leaving deep gashes. Sarah grabbed a flare gun and fired a warning shot into the air. The orca paused, then dove beneath the surface. For a moment, there was silence. Sarah scanned the water, trying to anticipate the next move. The orca emerged suddenly, launching itself at the boat. It breached the surface, its massive body crashing down with a force that sent waves crashing over the deck. Sarah was thrown to the ground, water flooding the boat. She scrambled to her feet, desperate to keep the vessel afloat. The orca circled once more, its eyes locked on Sarah. She could see the raw power and determination in its gaze. The orca lunged again, but this time Sarah was ready. She fired another flare, this one aimed directly at the water in front of the orca. The flare exploded, startling the orca. It veered away, disappearing beneath the waves. Sarah wasted no time. She started the engine and sped back to Havens Point, the boat listing to one side from the damage. She reached the shore, her body trembling with exhaustion and relief. The villagers helped her out of the boat, their faces filled with concern and fear. As Sarah pieced together the evidence, a grim realization dawned on her. The orca's behavior was not random. It was a calculated response to the depletion of its food sources. Overfishing had decimated the local fish population, leaving the orcas desperate and starving. This particular orca had learned to associate boats with the scarcity of food and had started targeting fishermen in retaliation. The attacks escalated over the next few weeks. Boats were found wrecked and more fishermen went missing. The community was gripped by fear, and fishing activities came to a halt. Sarah knew she had to act quickly to prevent further loss of life. She consulted with marine experts and local authorities, devising a plan to track and hopefully capture the rogue orca. Sarah equipped her boat with reinforced hulls and monitoring devices. She set out again, this time with a team of experts ready to assist. They navigated to the areas where the attacks had occurred, hoping to find the orca and understand its movements. Days turned into weeks, and the orca remained elusive. Tensions ran high as the team struggled to stay vigilant. One evening, just as the sun was setting, Sarah spotted the orca's fin in the distance. It was alone, moving slowly through the water. The team moved into position, their hearts pounding. Sarah activated the tracking device, sending a signal towards the orca. The orca responded immediately, turning towards the boat with alarming speed. The orca rammed the boat with tremendous force, but this time the reinforced hull held. Sarah and her team worked quickly, deploying nets and tranquilizers. The orca fought back, its powerful body thrashing against the restraints. Sarah's heart ached as she watched the struggle, knowing that the orca was acting out of desperation. After what felt like an eternity, the orca was finally subdued. The team carefully transported it to a secure facility where it could be monitored and studied. Sarah continued her research, advocating for stricter fishing regulations and the protection of marine life. The attacks ceased, and slowly the fishing community of Havens Point began to rebuild. The villagers never forgot the terror they had faced, but they also learned to respect the delicate balance of the ocean. Sarah's work brought new understanding and appreciation for the orcas and their plight. On a sunny morning in the summer of 2005, the turquoise waters off the coast of northern Australia glistened under the bright sun. It was July 20th, and the tropical paradise was at its finest. Crystal Cove, a small and secluded beach, was a hidden gem known only to a few locals and adventurous tourists. This pristine location was perfect for snorkeling and diving, with its vibrant coral reefs and diverse marine life. The waters here were home to various species, including the deadly box jellyfish, known for their potent venom and almost invisible tentacles. A group of friends had decided to spend the day diving in these waters. Among them were Jenna Thompson, a marine biology student, David Miller, an experienced diver, Lisa Brown, a nature photographer, and Mark Evans, a thrill seeker always up for an adventure. They were excited to explore the underwater world, eager to see the coral reefs and the myriad of fish that inhabited these waters. The day began early. The friends loaded their diving gear onto a small boat and set out from the shore. The sea was calm and the sky was clear. Spirits were high as they chatted and laughed, the boat cutting smoothly through the water. Jenna was particularly excited, hoping to spot some rare species for her research. David, with his years of diving experience, gave everyone safety tips and what to look out for. Lisa prepared her underwater camera, ready to capture the beauty of the reefs, while Mark, ever the daredevil, couldn't wait to dive into the clear blue water. As they reached their diving spot, they anchored the boat and prepared to dive. The water was warm and inviting. They adjusted their masks and fins, checked their air tanks, and one by one, they slipped into the sea. The underwater world was breathtaking. Schools of fish darted around them, and the coral reefs were alive with color. Jenna pointed out different species, and her excitement was palpable. Lisa took photos, capturing the vibrant underwater scenery. David kept a watchful eye on everyone, making sure they stayed safe, while Mark swam ahead, exploring every nook and cranny. The morning passed in a blur of wonder and discovery. They surfaced for a break, climbing back into the boat to rest and have lunch. The sun was high in the sky, and they talked animatedly about what they had seen. They were eager to dive again, to see more of the incredible underwater world. As they prepared for their second dive, David reminded everyone to stay close and be cautious. Box jellyfish were known to inhabit these waters, and their stings could be deadly. They slipped back into the water, unaware of the danger lurking nearby. Jenna swam ahead, eager to explore a particularly vibrant section of the reef. She felt a sharp, burning pain in her leg, followed by a wave of nausea. Panic set in as she realized what had happened. She had swum into a swarm of box jellyfish, their nearly invisible tentacles wrapped around her, injecting venom with every touch. Jenna's body went into shock almost immediately. Her vision blurred and she struggled to breathe. Her friends noticed her distress and rushed to her aid. David reached Jenna first. He saw the jellyfish clinging to her skin and quickly pulled her away, his heart pounding with fear. He knew the seriousness of the situation. Box jellyfish venom could cause paralysis, cardiac arrest, and even death within minutes. He signaled to Mark and Lisa to help him get Jenna back to the boat. The water around them was thick with jellyfish, and every movement risked another sting. They fought their way back to the boat, Jenna barely conscious. David and Mark lifted her onto the deck, careful to avoid the jellyfish still clinging to her. Lisa, shaking with fear, searched for the first aid kit. David knew they had to act fast. He grabbed the vinegar from the kit and poured it over the stings, trying to neutralize the venom. Jenna's skin was covered in angry red welts, and she was barely responsive. The situation was dire. They were miles from the shore, and the nearest medical help was hours away. Mark took the helm, steering the boat back towards Crystal Cove at full speed. David stayed by Jenna's side, monitoring her breathing and pulse. Lisa called for help on the radio, her voice shaking with panic. They had limited resources and were running out of time. The journey back was a race against time. Jenna's condition worsened, and David did everything he could to keep her stable. He knew they needed anti-venom, but it was miles away. Mark pushed the boat as fast as it would go, the engine roaring in the still air. They reached the shore and paramedics were waiting, having been alerted by Lisa's desperate call. Jenna was rushed to the nearest hospital where doctors immediately administered antivenom and began treating her for shock. Her friends waited anxiously, their faces pale with worry. Hours passed before they received the news. Jenna was in critical condition, but the doctors were hopeful. The antivenom had worked and she was stable, but she would need time to recover from the severe trauma. The ordeal had shaken the group deeply. They had faced the deadly embrace of one of the ocean's most dangerous creatures, and they lived to tell the tale. Jenna's recovery was slow, but she was determined. The experience had changed her, deepening her respect for the power of the sea. Her friends stood by her. The harrowing experience strengthened their bond. On a cold March morning in 2007, Alex Roberts, a documentary filmmaker, set foot on the remote Arctic island of White Rock, located off the coast of Norway. White Rock was known for its rugged beauty and harsh conditions. The island was a desolate expanse of ice and snow, home to a diverse array of wildlife. Among the most notable inhabitants were the seals, which congregated there during the mating season. Alex had arrived to film these seals for his latest documentary. He was passionate about wildlife and had spent years capturing the raw beauty of nature on camera. His goal was to document the seals' behavior during the mating season, a time when the animals were particularly active and territorial. The day began with Alex setting up his equipment on the rocky shore. He had a camera, tripods, and various lenses to capture every detail of the seals' lives. He was bundled up against the biting cold, wearing layers of thermal clothing, a thick parka, and heavy boots. The Arctic wind cut through the air, and the temperature hovered well below freezing. As he worked, Alex observed the seals from a distance. They were fascinating creatures, with their sleek bodies and large, dark eyes. The males, in particular, were impressive. They were significantly larger than the females and spent much of their time patrolling their territories, ready to fend off any rivals. The seals were not just beautiful, they were also formidable. Alex knew that males could be aggressive, especially during the mating season when competition for mates was fierce. Alex spent the morning filming the seals from a safe distance, capturing their interactions and movements. The light was perfect, and he was pleased with the footage he was getting. He noted the different behaviors, the way the males postured and called out, and the playful antics of the younger seals. By midday, Alex decided to move closer to get better shots. He approached carefully, making sure not to startle the animals. The seals seemed accustomed to his presence, and he managed to get within a few meters of a group. He focused his camera on a large male that was basking on the ice. The seal eyed him warily but did not move. Alex felt a surge of excitement. This was the footage he had been hoping for. He zoomed in, capturing every detail of the seal's powerful body and scarred face. The seal was an impressive specimen, clearly a dominant male. Alex could see the muscles rippling under its skin, the result of countless battles for dominance. As the afternoon wore on, Alex lost track of time, completely absorbed in his work. The sun began to dip towards the horizon, casting long shadows over the ice. He knew he needed to head back to his base camp before it got too dark. He packed up his gear and started to make his way back, his mind still on the amazing footage he had captured. As Alex moved away from the seals, he felt a sudden sharp pain in his leg. He turned to see the large male seal, the one he had been filming, lunging at him. The seal had perceived his movements as a threat and was now in full attack mode. The force of the attack knocked Alex to the ground. He felt the seal's sharp teeth sink into his leg, and pain shot through his body. Alex's instincts kicked in. He grabbed his camera equipment and used it to fend off the seal. He swung the tripod, trying to create some distance between them. The seal was relentless, its powerful body pushing forward, determined to defend its territory. Alex managed to land a few hits, but the seal's thick skin absorbed most of the impact. The seal reared back and came at him again. Alex could see the fury in its eyes, a primal rage driven by instinct. He felt another bite, this time on his arm. The pain was excruciating. He used his free hand to grab his survival knife from his belt and slashed at the seal, hoping to scare it off. The seal backed off momentarily, giving Alex a chance to scramble to his feet. Bleeding and in shock, Alex knew he had to get away. He staggered towards the base camp, each step a struggle against the intense pain and the numbing cold. He could hear the seal behind him, still growling and ready to attack if he slowed down. The Arctic wind whipped around him, making it harder to move and think clearly. He reached the base camp and quickly bolted the door behind him. His heart pounded as he heard the seal's frustrated calls outside. Alex collapsed onto the floor, his injuries throbbing with each beat of his heart. He knew he needed medical attention, but he was miles from the nearest help. Using the first aid kit he had packed, Alex began to treat his wounds. He cleaned the bites and wrapped them tightly to stop the bleeding. The pain was overwhelming, but he fought to stay conscious. He knew he couldn't afford to pass out in this cold. Hypothermia was a real threat. The night was long and torturous. Alex drifted in and out of sleep, his body shaking from the cold and pain. When morning came, he assessed his situation. He was weak, but he had to move. He packed up his gear, made a makeshift crutch, and set out for the main research station several miles away. Every step was agony, but Alex pushed on, driven by the need to survive. The landscape was unforgiving, and he had to stay alert for any sign of danger. Hours passed, and the journey seemed endless, but finally, he saw the silhouette of the research station on the horizon. He reached the station and collapsed at the door, barely able to call for help. The researchers inside rushed to his aid, quickly assessing his injuries and getting him to a medical facility. The ordeal had left Alex physically and emotionally scarred, but he was alive. In the weeks that followed, Alex recovered from his injuries. The experience had changed him, deepening his respect for the power and unpredictability of nature. He completed his documentary, using the footage he had risked his life to capture. The story of his encounter with the territorial seal became a central part of the film, a testament to the raw and untamed beauty of the Arctic. On a humid morning in August 2009, wildlife photographer Laura Daniels arrived at the heart of the Everglades in Florida, USA. The vast, sprawling wetlands were a haven for alligators, birds, and other wildlife. Laura was on assignment to capture the beauty and biodiversity of the swamp. She was passionate about her work, always seeking the perfect shot to showcase the wonders of nature. The Everglades were known for their thick vegetation, winding waterways, and the constant hum of insects. The air was thick with humidity, and the smell of damp earth filled Laura's senses. She wore light, breathable clothing and carried her camera, lenses, and a small backpack with essential supplies. The sun was just rising, casting a golden light over the water and illuminating the mist that hung in the air. Laura began her day by photographing birds as they took flight, their wings catching the morning light. She moved quietly, careful not to disturb the natural setting. Her goal was to find and document the saltwater crocodiles that were known to inhabit the deeper parts of the swamp. Crocodiles were powerful predators, and Laura respected their strength and agility. She knew the risks involved in getting too close, but was confident in her ability to stay safe. The morning passed uneventfully as Laura navigated the swamp. She waded through shallow waters, her eyes constantly scanning for movement. She captured images of turtles sunning themselves on logs, fish darting through the water, and the dense foliage that made the Everglades so unique. The heat was intense, and she took frequent breaks to drink water and cool off. Around midday, Laura ventured deeper into the swamp. The terrain became more challenging, with thicker vegetation and murkier water. She moved slowly, her senses heightened. It was then that she spotted a large nest on the bank, surrounded by reeds and partially hidden by the undergrowth. Her heart raced with excitement as she realized it was a crocodile nest. She approached cautiously, eager to get a closer look but mindful of the danger. Laura positioned herself a safe distance away and began to take photos. The nest was impressive, built with care and precision. As she focused her camera, she heard a low, rumbling growl behind her. She turned slowly, her heart pounding. There, emerging from the water, was a massive saltwater crocodile, the mother of the nest. The crocodile's eyes locked onto Laura, and she could feel the tension in the air. The crocodile lunged at Laura with terrifying speed. Instinct took over, and Laura bolted, her camera clutched tightly in her hand. The swampy terrain made running difficult, and she stumbled over roots and through thick mud. The crocodile was relentless, its powerful jaws snapping shut inches from her feet. Laura's heart pounded as she pushed forward, her mind racing with fear and adrenaline. She knew she had to find higher ground, somewhere the crocodile couldn't reach. She spotted a cluster of cypress trees ahead and sprinted towards them, using her camera equipment to fend off the crocodile's advances. The trees provided some cover, and Laura climbed onto a low branch, pulling herself up just as the crocodile lunged again. She looked down at the predator, its eyes still fixed on her. The branch creaked under her weight, and she knew it wouldn't hold for long. She had to keep moving. Laura scanned the area looking for a way out. She saw a narrow path leading deeper into the swamp. It was risky, but she had no choice. She dropped down from the branch and took off along the path, the crocodile crashing through the water behind her. Each step was a battle against the thick mud and tangled roots. The chase felt endless. Laura's legs burned with exhaustion and her lungs struggled for air. She could hear the crocodile's heavy breathing and the splash of its movements. The swamp seemed to close in around her, the dense vegetation blocking out the sun and casting eerie shadows. Just as Laura thought she couldn't go any further, she spotted a small, elevated patch of land. It was surrounded by thick reeds and partially hidden by a fallen tree. She scrambled towards it, her body screaming in protest. She reached the patch of land and collapsed onto the ground, her chest heaving. The crocodile slowed its pursuit, its eyes still watching Laura. She knew she had to keep it at bay until she could find a way to signal for help. She rummaged through her backpack and found a flare gun. With shaking hands, she loaded it and fired into the air. The flare shot up, bright and red against the darkening sky. Hours passed and Laura kept her eyes on the crocodile, ready to defend herself if it came closer. Finally, she heard the sound of a boat in the distance. Rescuers arrived, alerted by the flare, and carefully approached the scene. They helped Laura onto the boat, keeping a wary eye on the crocodile that still lingered nearby. Laura was taken to a nearby hospital where she was treated for exhaustion and minor injuries. The experience had left her shaken, but she was grateful to be alive. Her close encounter with the crocodile was a stark reminder of the power and unpredictability of nature. In the days that followed, Laura reviewed the footage she had captured. Despite the terror of the chase, she had managed to document the raw beauty of the Everglades and the fierce protectiveness of the crocodile mother. Her film would tell a powerful story of survival and respect for the wild. In June 2006, a luxury yacht, the Coral Dream, cruised through the pristine waters of the Coral Sea, off the coast of Australia. The sea was calm, and the sky was a perfect blue. This yacht, known for its opulence, was on a journey to showcase the beauty of the Coral Sea's marine life to its wealthy passengers. The crew consisted of experienced sailors and a few marine biologists. Among them was Tom Reed, the head of the crew, and his assistant, Laura Smith. Both were seasoned in handling sea voyages and ensuring the safety of their guests. The passengers included a mix of businessmen and nature enthusiasts, all eager to experience the luxury and adventure promised by the trip. The day started as a perfect example of a luxury cruise. Guests lounged on the deck, sipping cocktails and enjoying the sun. The crew attended to their needs, ensuring everyone was comfortable. Laura spent her time educating the guests about the marine life they might encounter. She spoke of the various sea creatures, including the beautiful yet dangerous sea snakes known to inhabit these waters. Sea snakes in the Coral Sea are known for their potent venom. Unlike land snakes, they are more curious than aggressive, but their bites can be fatal without prompt treatment. Laura stressed the importance of being cautious and aware of their surroundings while enjoying the ocean's wonders. As the afternoon progressed, the yacht sailed smoothly, and everything seemed perfect. The guests were thrilled to spot dolphins and a variety of colorful fish. Tom and Laura took turns guiding small groups on snorkeling trips to witness the vibrant coral reefs up close. The beauty of the underwater world left everyone in awe. However, as evening approached, dark clouds began to gather on the horizon. The crew prepared for an impending storm, securing loose items and ensuring all safety protocols were in place. The guests were advised to stay inside the main cabin as the first raindrops began to fall. As the storm intensified, the yacht rocked violently, causing the crew to double-check the vessel's stability. Amid the chaos, a crew member named Jack stumbled upon a sea snake slithering across the deck, likely brought on board with the snorkeling gear. Before Jack could react, the snake bit him on the leg. Jack screamed in pain, and Laura rushed to his side. She recognized the severity of the situation and knew they needed to act fast. Sea snake venom can cause paralysis and death within hours. She instructed another crew member to fetch the medical kit containing the anti-venom, while Tom radioed for help. But the storm had knocked out their communications. The situation grew more dire when they discovered the medical kit was missing. In the frantic search, they found more sea snakes had made their way into the yacht's cargo hold. Fear spread among the crew and passengers. They were trapped on a yacht with a venomous threat, and their only communication with the outside world was down. Laura and Tom organized a thorough search of the yacht, navigating the confined spaces with great care. The storm raged on, making the yacht's movement unpredictable and dangerous. Laura kept a close eye on Jack, trying to keep him calm and as still as possible to slow the spread of venom. In the dim light of the cargo hold, they moved cautiously, knowing any sudden movement could provoke the hidden snakes. The air was thick with tension. Finally, Laura found the missing medical kit wedged between some crates. She quickly prepared the antivenom and administered it to Jack, praying it wasn't too late. With Jack stabilized, their next priority was to signal for help. The yacht's radio was dead, and their only option was to use flare guns to attract attention. Tom climbed to the highest point of the yacht, braving the wind and rain, and fired a series of flares into the stormy sky. Hours passed with no response. The passengers huddled together, scared and uncertain. Laura and Tom took turns watching over Jack and keeping the sea snakes at bay. Just as despair began to set in, a faint light appeared on the horizon. A rescue boat had seen their flares and was approaching. The rescuers boarded the yacht and quickly assessed the situation. They secured the remaining sea snakes and transported Jack to their boat for further medical treatment. The storm had subsided, leaving behind a shaken but relieved group of passengers and crew. Back on shore, Jack was rushed to a hospital where doctors confirmed that Laura's swift actions had saved his life. The experience left a deep impact on everyone involved. Laura and Tom were hailed as heroes for their bravery and quick thinking.